Hello and welcome to the Mama Rose Show with your host, Mama Rose. And we are here today with a fabulous lady who is a celebrity booking coach who creates stars. And she is a star herself. And we're just so excited to have her. Her name is Amy Linden. Amy, darling, how are you?
Hey, hello from California.
So, we're in quarantine, you're still creating stars, but how are you doing in quarantine and what has become your daily routine?
I'm creating stars online now. Before I was creating them in person, now I'm creating them online. I have so many coachings today for a whole bunch of kids that are going in for a series regular for Stranger Things. Yeah, I have Zoom classes all week. I teach a booking technique to teach people how to book jobs. But in the meantime, I am working on my YouTube channel. I've been putting out incredible videos, educating actors all over the world. As a matter of fact, I have a class on Saturday with a school in Alabama.
You're in LA right now, but is that where your main focus is, or do you go all over, like New York?
Oh yeah, I've done master classes in New York. I've been to Montana, Arizona, Chicago about 5 times. I've directed. I direct a lot too, but I directed all these pilots, a couple of pilots in Chicago.
What are your future plans?
Interestingly enough, my Zoom students, they want me to continue. What's relevant about Zoom is that see this right here? I'm in a self-tape close-up. So this would be my framing for self-tape. And so I'm actually able to see up close what they're actually going to be doing on a self-tape.
I love that you bring up self-taping because that has become the way of the future, and it's an interesting experience, rather than going in for an audition or, doing the self-tape and then going in for the audition.
It's better for the actor. My technique, it's for many things, but one of the main things was for nerves in the room. And so now that they don't need to go in the room and they can be in front of the camera and redo it over and over again and not let the room dictate how well they're going to do, it really changes the whole game for everybody.
The room is always the toughest place for an actor. And I've been in rooms, as an actor, and it's truly a scary situation. You just try to, black out everybody else and just focus on you, presenting the best piece. But as you said, a self-tape makes it so much easier because there's not that intimidation of the people behind the table.
Actors are so sensitive, we're empaths. We're supposed to be empaths. We're supposed to exchange energy, as Meisner said. We're supposed to feel what the other person is feeling or let them know how we're feeling. And if casting is their element is not supposed to help us act, then whatever energy they're in that day, we're going to pick up. And it's going to be part of our audition.
Many moons ago, I actually studied with Sandy at the Neighborhood Playhouse.
I studied there too, but not with Sandy. I was at the junior school when I was 16.
You have your technique, and Sandy had his technique, and I'm not going to compare because they're both brilliant, but what is the difference in techniques from yours to his or his to yours?
Well, his technique is based in emotion. Mine is based in story, using emotion to tell the story. My technique is a template on how to break down a script. I believe that acting schools don't teach actors how to properly break down a script. And the person that's going to get the job is the person that's going to tell the best story. And so I always ask my students where they've trained, because I've trained everywhere. I mean, I trained with Stella Adler, I trained in London, I've trained everywhere. But none of that matters if you don't know how to book a job. So I take all of their training and I put it into this template known as the Lyndon Technique on how to break down a scene. And what you do is you plug in all those juicy emotions and all the juiciness that you learned in acting classes. So it just helps you book a job.
I like how you just said that you take, what people have learned and make a template out of it.
So let's say, for argument's sake, I ask you, what is the scene about? Let's say you say the scene is about the virus, and then you have your point of view about it, I have mine. And then you have your emotions about it, and I have my emotions about it. And in film and television, we don't even need to worry about the conflict because the editor cut that together. So the technique is very contemporary to today's standards, to film and television. And you take all of that juicy training and you plug it into the quotient, the beginning, the middle, the end, emotion, emotion, emotion. And when does it change?
I have to ask this question. Have you worked on the stage, and what have your favorite productions been, if you have?
My favorite role was Martha in A Children's Hour. And I remember when Martha kills herself at the end of the play, I'm backstage sobbing at my own death, you know? I'm going, oh, I'm dead. It was so sad. And maybe Shelley and Buried Child.
Great.
Yeah, Sam Shepard, my hero. David Mamet, my hero.
They're so great. They are absolutely amazing. And the writing is just perfect.
I know, you know, and unfortunately when Neil Simon passed, I said to my students, I said, oh, let's just take a moment just to, you know, pray for Neil Simon to rest in peace. And half of them didn't even know who he was, which I find to be very sad. And that's a commentary on Los Angeles, not on New York. Because people come out here and they want to be in film and television, but they could tell you who the star was of Hawaii Five-0.
That is true. That is true.
But
Yeah.
I'll ask a New Yorker who's the star of Hawaii Five-0, they'd be like, what? You know, it's really interesting. The point of view of the industry is different.
It's very true. I mean, it is so drastically different, and we're, you know, only 3,000 miles away, but I mean, that's enough to change everything.
Yeah, but to understand television, you know, nobody gets to be on television unless you understand the show. And one of the biggest things I tell my people is to watch a lot of television. And now that we're in the you know, this situation, it's a good time to watch different shows and write down the tone and style of each show, because you could be a great actor but not for their show.
Exactly. And actually, I've got a question that follows up with that later.
See, I'm a mind reader.
Let me jump into this question, because this is important to me, because I'm just trying to find out inspiration, because inspiration is so important to theater, film, and beyond. But who has been the greatest inspiration in your career or in life?
If I were to talk about being inspired, you know, I can't just say one person, you know. I might say my mother. My parents are very interesting because my mother is so creative. She could take nothing and create it into something. And my father has done that with every business that he's ever created, taken nothing and built it into something. And that's what I've done my entire life. Created nothing and built it into something. I did it with the management company. I've done it with this business, the Lyndon Technique, and now it's, I have almost 52 network series regulars from this technique. It's revolutionary what's going on. I have an Emmy winner, an Imaging winner. It's crazy. People write me from all over the world. So I took this from nothing, and my father's his courage to create as an idea and then make it into something that could help people is really inspiring. I'm coming out with a new clothing line this year. I'm still working on the website called I Am Enough. I own the trademark to it. And I believe that will inspire people, and I'll probably take that from the ground level and build it just like I've done everything else I've ever done. And even when I was managing, you know, it's just tenacity, discipline, and a lot of hard work and not giving up. I built Adam Brody. He came to me when he was 16. I built him all the way up to the OC. He used to negotiate contracts. Brandon Baker for, he was Mowgli. I negotiated a 3-picture deal with Disney for him. And this was like, this is all that happened because you have a dream, and then you create it, you believe in it, and then you see what you can do to help other people with it. And I believe that is the quotient. And my father and my mother were the inspiration.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And you've mentioned and touched on the Lyndon Technique. Now, if someone's interested to take your class and participate, what is the best way for them to do this?
If they don't live in Los Angeles, They could study online. I have a Udemy course. I have a beautiful 3-hour lecture on Vimeo on demand. In the Udemy course, the Vimeo on demand is included. I also have a business and booking site called the Actors Toolbox, and they can get a free trial week on that for you guys. And on there, I have 99, 99, maybe it's even 100 at this point. I started in 2011. It's a library for actors. I have almost 100 video coachings where I'm coaching over 100 actors. And I have video lectures, and then if their package, it does not match their talent, like if they're an A+ actor with a C- package and they're frustrated, they could do all the assignments on there. And now that I'm doing Zoom, they could train with me on the computer, but they have to qualify by doing the courses. I have a book on Audible called Extended and Unplugged, the Lyndon Technique, the 15 Guideline Map To Booking. And that's free for people that are on Audible. And then I have the original book that I wrote in 2009, and that's on Amazon. Or you can get power packs. Just go to the lyndontechnique.com and just go to the store.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure to get that in there, because if
Oh
there's
my God, thank you.
if there's people in LA, I'd love for them to sign up for your course or to find out more information about your course.
It's really important to get in touch, sign up. I have a free newsletter, and you get a bunch of stuff from it. You get the cheat sheet, a free cheat sheet of the 15 guidelines. So go to the website. I'm probably the only actor that has over 100 IMDb credits that has a school.
Amazing.
Because you have to think of it this way. A lot of people, they create schools, but they're not in the rooms. I'm in the rooms with you. I'm doing the self-tape while you're doing the self-tape. I'm having problems with lighting too. I'm looking at myself hating whatever. I am you.
I like how you put that, that you're in the room with them. You're on that same tape with them. You know what they're feeling, seeing, understanding. So that's amazing. And I, in my extended career, never have seen that or felt that, from a teacher.
I know what it's like when a casting director speaks too fast, speaks too slow, doesn't look at you. So what does the actor do? They spend the time trying to get the casting director's attention instead of doing their work. So that's why the Lyndon Technique was built, because I used to get so screwed up by the casting director, and it's not their fault. They get to be how they are, Their job is to find me, not to read well with me. The technique protects yourself from the room, gives you a chance to insulate your talent and bring your gift to the room.
You have accomplished so much in your life, and I'm honestly very impressed. But
Yeah, and I'm only 30. Ah.
What has your favorite accomplishment been?
You know what? I'll be personal here. My favorite accomplishment, I think, is that I survived a divorce. I survived relationships that didn't work out. And I believe it's to finally believe that I didn't need a man, but I wanted a man. And honestly, because I could talk about my accomplishment of all my students that are stars, whatever. But if I think it's important to be personal with you, to be okay. Like here I am during this fire situation, and I'm spending a lot of time by myself. And I believe I've done so much work over the last 8 years on me that I am almost enjoying this time, And so I believe my biggest accomplishment is to be okay with myself.
As an actor, you need to be comfortable with who you are in front of a camera, on the stage, before you can really present a piece.
You're supposed to be fluid. Like your whole being needs to be fluid, because how are you going to morph into whatever character that the writer gave you if you have stuff that's in the way? And so that's why I say an actor is a walking, talking, emotional vehicle for the writer. So I'm in the juiciest place that I've ever been in my life. Like I'm feeling really juicy.
you bring up such an important statement, and I have to ask you about it because you talk about it in your teaching. But the saying was, "What show do you belong on?" And I found that question to really bring up questions in my mind, as an actor and director and whatnot. How can you explain what show to be on?
Okay, so I look at you, okay? I'll use you as an example, okay? Let's use you. There's a show called New Amsterdam, okay? And there's a character on there that you would play, right? And so you need to look at shows and go, that guy has my job. He's a therapist. He's in love with his husband. They have a couple of kids, but he's a therapist for the hospital. And it's a beautiful role. And so he took your role. That was your role. If Goldie Hawn went to television, crossed with Jennifer Coolidge, crossed with Kirstie Alley, crossed with Bette Midler, they would have my job. And so I asked people, when you watch TV, do you say, I could have played that role?
I never thought about that.
I mean, Orange is the New Black was its own show, but pretty much every show was like every show. Like Castle was just like Bones, okay? Hawaii Five-0 is MacGyver or Lethal Weapon. I mean, they're all the same, okay? So they cast pretty much the same. Like if you look at it like it's a TV guide, right? And they're all lined up like this in the TV guide, right? the leads in the front and they fan out, and that's the picture for the TV guide. Well, which one are you?
It's so interesting how you put it that way. because
actors don't think like business, and I came from being a manager, okay? And as you know, the person that's going to get the job on television is going to represent it. It's not film, it's not theater where they go with the talent. What is the representation? And if people would just understand it, I have lectures about this on the Actors Toolbox. It's a whole different philosophy of booking, because if you don't look like you're on the show, you don't act like you're on the show, you're not going to be on the show. You just won't. And if people keep getting called back to the same office, you're on their list because you're a great actor, but you're not booking it because you're still not in their show. So go on IMDb Pro and see what the clothing designers put their people in. If it's a military show, how are you walking in? How are you sitting? How are you handling yourself? What is the socioeconomic status of the character that you're playing? It's going to dictate how you sit. And as far as I'm concerned, it starts with the shoes.
Very interesting that you say it starts with the shoes, and it really does, and it builds its way up. What advice would you give from your heart to an actor who's starting out or someone who is advancing in their career?
Never give up no matter what, and don't sit in it's okay, because it's not okay. Never sit in that. You can't just be good. You can't just be great. You can't just be brilliant. You have to be at no question. That there's no question they have to have you. And you need to look at this as the Olympics. Would somebody spend millions of dollars to put you on their show? That's something you need to look at. And once you believe that, and once your package reflects that, and once you reflect it in your read, that you are at the top of your game, then you'll see remarkable results. And it doesn't matter where you are for that. Because you could be auditioning for a school play. Are you walking in like an Olympic actor? Or are you just great?